Hello, my name is Matthias, and welcome to the FPL Scope and the FPL Eye Test, where we take a look at this past weekend's Premier League matches from an FPL perspective. And this time around, I'm going to do it a bit differently for the Game Week 5 fixtures. I'm going to talk about the most important fixture first, and then as we go along, there will be less and less importance, especially in terms of FPL-wise, but also in terms of just what happened in the games. Usually, I've done it in chronological order, where I start with the first game on Saturday or Friday, and end with the last game on Sunday or Monday. But now I'm going to do it more with the most important games coming up first in the video. So let me know in the comment section if you like this type of way of doing it, or if you prefer it the old way in the chronological order, and if you want me to return to doing that, basically. But first and foremost, watch the video and judge for yourself. See if you prefer it this way or the other way, pretty much. But yeah, let's start with the first and most important game that I'm going to talk about from Game Week 5, and that is between Arsenal and Man City, two presumed title favorites or title contenders behind Liverpool, before the start of the season at least. But now it seems like most people have written off at least Man City, but also some people are writing off Arsenal now, with them being 5 points behind Liverpool at this point of the season. I think it's a bit early for both of them to be written off. I think both teams are really good. Let's start with Man City first, actually, who are the first team that have been written off in the title contending spots this season. They've had some bad results, obviously, against Brighton and Spurs. And like I said in previous videos, those are the two types of games that they've actually struggled in last season as well. They lost against Spurs at home last season, and they lost against Brighton away at last season as well. And last season, they also lost 5-1 against Arsenal at the Emirates, and I think that's what Pep Guardiola had in mind for this game, because he's set up super defensively. Some of that is down to game state, of course, that City just got the lead pretty early, so they went even more defensive, especially in the second half, as they were trying to protect that 1-0 lead. But I think it's also just from what Guardiola said after the match, they just have a lot of respect for Arsenal now, because Arsenal are a force to be reckoned with, I think, overall. But Man City still got the first goal, a really nice goal with Reinders and Haaland combining. Those two guys have been really popular FPL picks, especially as of late, and for good reason, because they showed it in this goal. They can just quickly turn it on and score pretty fast. And that's also just another thing I've seen from Man City this season, or a lot of people have seen from Man City this season. The tactics are very different. Usually they play from the back, and they are pretty meticulous in terms of how they contain possession and just go forward in a more slow manner. But now it's more about the counterattacks and just going quickly up the pitch. We've seen Guardiola switch his tactics around plenty of times during his time at Man City. He just do these tweaks here and there, and now he's been making a pretty major shift in terms of how Man City play. Obviously, this game is a bit of an anomaly. A lot of the record low possession type of stats, a lot of record lows for Guardiola in this match in terms of his style of play. And I don't think that's going to be what you usually see from Man City. Usually they are a pretty free-flowing attacking team, but this time around against Arsenal away, they try to get a result by sort of defending and counterattacking, especially way more than they have usually done. It worked out for the goal. Like I said, Reinders, fantastic at driving with the ball. Haaland, fantastic at running into spaces and scoring when he gets the chance. But again, I think also the Arsenal defense gets some blame, or a lot of the blame here, especially Saliba, for my sake. I was watching this game, of course, with 2 Arsenal players in my team and no Man City players starting for me. I don't have Haaland yet, or I do have him now, actually, since I transferred him in for Game Week 6. And I did have Reinders on the bench for this game. So for this, that goal was actually the worst thing possible for me, with Gabriel in defense and those two guys combining. But as you can see from the expected goal numbers, this is why I had Arsenal defenders, at least, and Gabriel in this case. I had him already since Game Week 1, and I did expect Arsenal to still keep a decent chance of a clean sheet, but they did concede early from that early goal from Man City. And from that point on, Man City just completely parked the bus, as I've written there in the headline there. Pep parks the bus. I think that was the more defensive-minded thing compared to what everyone's talking about currently, which is Arsenal being defensive. Man City were actually the super defensive team in this game. I think it actually pretty closely reflected the game between Liverpool and Arsenal at Anfield, where Arsenal were super defensive and didn't really create much. They didn't really create much in this game either, but I think that's mostly just down to the opposition that they had, and Man City just not attacking at all and playing counter-attacking football. But yeah, either way, it almost worked out for Man City. They kept the 1-0 lead until the very end, where Gabriel Martinelli had come on for Arsenal and scored a really vital goal once again. He is shown to be a pretty important player to put in for these matches for Arsenal, and I think that's the big thing for Arsenal now. They have players that they can have off the bench that can contribute. One of them is actually Madueke, who usually will play off the bench, but now he's been playing as a starter because Saka's been injured, and now that Saka is back and played for the second half, Madueke is actually injured and he's going to be out for 2 months now. So we're not going to see that like starting substitution type of thing with Saka and Madueke. Madueke coming on late in the game after Saka has played most of the game. We're going to see that potentially on the left, I think, with Eze starting, hopefully going forward, and then either Trossard or Martinelli coming on at the left hand side. So I think that's going to be a nice tactic for Arsenal. They're going to have like a nice 1-2 punch. I'm going to have some really fresh legs that are really tough to stop in Martinelli and Madueke eventually once everyone gets fit. But for now, I think they have some injury issues and they have to deal with that. Also, I think the one major thing that Arteta got wrong in this game was not starting Eze. I was expecting Eze to start most games for Arsenal after he was brought in for quite a lot of money this summer. And I think that's going to be the case going forward, at least, because he got a lot of criticism for not starting Eze, and I think it's valid criticism. I think there's a lot of unjust criticism towards Arteta in general, but for this type of game and not having Eze from start with the midfield that they had without Ødegaard here as well, I think that was a mistake on his part. Something that he did change at halftime, but that was also down to the fact that they were down 1-0 and they had to make changes to sort of get something from this game. But either way, I think Arsenal didn't look the best offensively. They did also mess up for the goal defensively, but other than that, they were pretty solid defensively and are just going to be a really tough team to break down in general, with a lot of set-piece threat, as we've seen this season from Arsenal in general. So yeah, when it comes to Man City, Haaland has been fantastic. Had his worst game so far in terms of expected goals or non-penalty expected goal moments. 0.53 was still enough to be the best in the whole game, of course, in a pretty defensively minded game. But it was tough against the Arsenal defense, who are really good, but not on the counter-attack. That's where Haaland got his goal. Scored a goal, got 3 bonus points, 9 points from Haaland. Reinders managed to get the assist there and also got DEFCON points, despite getting only 11 defense contributions in total in this game. As you can see, that's not a typo. It says Reinders with 11 DEFCONs, or defense contributions. And that's not usually enough to get your DEFCON points, not enough to be a DEFCON winner. But in this instance, Opta Stats made an error, I think, during the game and gave him 2 defensive contributions in injury time, I think, which got him to 12. But then, like, a day after, they changed it. They looked through the game and they changed it down back to 11. But because the game week had already finished, this was the final game of the game week, that change wasn't reflected in FPL and not reflected in the points, so he kept his defensive contribution points, which is also kind of lucky for any Reinders owners or Reinders starters or Reinders bench boosters, I should say. But again, this is what happens. Like 11 would have been unlucky, and now he gets lucky with 12. I don't think it matters that much, and I'm not too like fussed about it as someone that benched him and didn't get the points, and I see a lot of people getting the points. It happens. Like it could have been legitimate with 12 DEFCONs, and it wasn't. Like, it's just, yeah, not really that big of a deal. But I don't think you can expect DEFCONs that much from Reinders. He didn't even get it in this game, like factually, but he also got close to 12 at least, just from Man City just playing super defensive, and I don't think that's going to be the case going forward at all. But yeah, also got to shout out Doku, who looks amazing for Man City. I think he's like a key reason why Reinders has also looked really good and has been involved offensively. So with Marmoush out and Cherki out for a while, I think Doku is going to play. I think also Doku just has been clearly the best winger for Man City so far this season, and I think he needs to start going forward, especially with how good Reinders looks with Doku there in place. Rodrigo was back again, playing 90 minutes and getting DEFCON points again. 16 DEFCONs from Rodrigo. He looks really good in that regard, but I'm not so sure about his offensive potential. He scored a lot of goals in 2 seasons ago when he was the Ballon d'Or winner, of course, before he got injured. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, because it seems like Reinders has sort of taken up that spot for him. But who knows with Man City? They could go forward and drift forward and get goals from their central midfielders. But I think Reinders at 1 million less is just better value than Rodrigo at this point. Even though Rodrigo could be like a DEFCON monster who gets goals as well, he could be really good value eventually. But for now, I think it's a bit of a wait and see. Guardiola is also back in the defense. He got 14 defense contributions and 2 defensive contribution points. But again, I'm not sure if this is going to be sustainable for Man City, who played most of this game on the back foot and tried to defend the whole game. I think that's why they reached DEFCON in this game in general. Arsenal, I think also, Gyökeres didn't look the best, had 0.0 XG once again in one of these big games, but I think it's just down to the fact that he doesn't get that many shooting chances, and he's someone that is waiting for the chance in the box. He's either going to get 0.0 xg or 1 xg from like a really big chance. That almost happened in this game as well. There was a cross towards him, but it just flicked off of the heel of Ruben Diaz, and it took it off the path going towards Gyökeres. And I think Gyökeres would have had like a really good chance to score and like 0.75 probably xg from that chance alone if the ball had just gone plain through to him, and I think he would have scored at that point as well. So I wouldn't be too worried in these big games. Like, that is like the talk about Gyökeres, that he's not going to be performing in these big games, but he did also score a hat-trick against Man City in the Champions League last season. So I think he has it in him, but I think it's also going to be just far and few between his chances. He's not someone that takes that many shots from like outside the box and stuff like that. He hasn't really gotten the ball in those positions. Arsenal have a lot of players that drive with the ball, both in midfield and in on the wings. So I think Gyökeres is going to be someone like closer to the ilk of Chris Wood, for example. And I guess it's comparable because they both look a bit big and clunky. But I think he's going to be more the type of player that gets like really high XG when he gets the chances and really low XG when he doesn't get the chances. So I wouldn't worry too much about Gyökeres, but it's not ideal the way he started the season in these tough matches. But in easy matches, he's been really good so far. So I think he's a really strong candidate for anyone wildcarding in Game Week 6 or like wanting a good striker. I think you can wait for Game Week 7 because if you're like just using free transfers, because Newcastle away is going to be really tough for Arsenal to score next game. But yeah, I think Arsenal, I don't think their season is over at all. I think it's mostly down to the next few games now when they're playing Newcastle, West Ham, Fulham, the types of teams that they have struggled against in the past. Because people are saying that Arteta struggles in these big games, but that's not factually correct at all. Like, Arsenal have been by far the best team in these big 6 matches the last 2 seasons, despite not the best start to this season, but they almost had a draw against Liverpool in that game, just a Szoboszlai freakish free kick. And then this game they could have easily won as well. They were the better team in total, despite Man City scoring first, of course, and looking better in terms of just scoring goals early on in the game. But yeah, I think Arsenal are going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine in big games as well. And I think also Arteta will play Eze next time because he needs that creativity. Eze was also the one passing for Martinelli for the winning goal. Really nice pass, really nice run, really nice finish from Martinelli. And pretty bad goalkeeping from Donnarumma, who got a lot of plaudits from this game, but I don't think was really that warranted because a lot of the shots were just straight at him. And he did pretty badly for the goal that they did concede in the end. But yeah, that was our first game. Talked a lot about that game as I sort of expected. That's also why I've sort of done it this way. To talk more about the games that are like the major games in terms of FPL as well. Because there are a lot of assets from Arsenal and Man City, especially going forward now, for people wildcarding Game Week 6 that will be interesting for people to select from. So Arsenal defenders, Gabriel is like a nailed guy for me. I think he plays 90 minutes every game. You can expect that. He has goal threat. He has clean sheet potential every game. And also, I think also like Timber and Calafiori have played every single game so far. I think they are pretty nailed, and I think they are overlooked as FPL assets, especially Timber, who's really good in the box as well. He's really good at from these set pieces. And in Game Week 7 against West Ham, he is someone that could be really, really, really good. So yeah, Timber is also someone I would shout out. A lot of people have Raya, but he's not going to get that many saves. He's going to take up an Arsenal spot. Who knows if Eze plays every game from now on? Maybe you want to triple up with Gabriel, Eze, and Gyökeres. Maybe you want to have Timber, who's looking good offensively, alongside Gabriel and someone like Gyökeres or Eze, or Saka for that matter, who's going to come back now. He played 45 minutes in this game. So yeah, I'm not too sure about Raya. I'm not too fussed about 5.5 goalkeepers in general. Also the case with Donnarumma. He's going to take up a City spot, and there's so many good potential City assets. Guardiola and Aït-Nouri, we haven't seen them play at the same time so far this season, and that could be really devastating, especially with Aït-Nouri being more allowed to roam forward. If they do play that as like the strongest 11, that could be also a really good instance for Man City going forward. I mentioned Doku, who's really good. Reinders is fantastic value right now. Haaland is obviously someone that everyone wants, who's like pretty much essential at this point. I think there's just too many good assets from Arsenal and Man City to go for a 5.5 goalkeeper that doesn't get that many saves from either team. So yeah, that's a bit of a rant for me in terms of goalkeepers. I don't think 5.5 goalkeepers from the best teams are the best way to go, pretty much. But yeah, let's move on. We talked a lot about Arsenal and City. Let's move on to the next game. This is actually the first game of the game week between Liverpool and Everton, the early game on Saturday. And it ended up with another 1-goal win for Liverpool, which is their expertise. Only one game has been decided by 2 goals or more this time for Liverpool, and that was against Bournemouth in the first game week, where they scored a really late goal to get 3-2, and then in injury time, Salah scored again to make it 4-2. Other than that, Liverpool have just won with 1 goal every single game, but that is enough to get the maximum amount of points that they could have gotten at this point. 15 points out of 15. A fantastic start despite a lot of tough matches, I should say as well. Everton in this game, Bournemouth in the first game week, they played Arsenal, and they also played Newcastle at St James's Park, so a lot of tough matches, but they still also look kind of bad against Burnley in their really easy match last time around at home to Burnley. So yeah, but they're still struggling to get like into full gear. You can see from the expected goals here as well against Everton, who have been pretty bad defensively so far this season. 0.94 XG is not that much for Liverpool, so we're still waiting for them to completely unlock offensively. Florian Wirtz is the main thing. He did not even start in this game, so anyone that has him are super frustrated at this point, and most of you guys have probably free-hitted or wildcarded, I should say, for Game Week 6, because Wirtz didn't play, came on, got a yellow card, and then got 0 points for anyone that had him still in their team and was hoping for returns in this game. Salah is also someone that a lot of people have been selling, but I'm not sure if that is like the best decision currently. I'm still, like, a lot of people wildcarding are looking to see if they should have Salah and Haaland or not, or just go with Haaland only. But I think Salah is like close to unlocking what has been so great about him for the past 9 seasons. He's been the greatest. He is the greatest Fantasy Premier League player of all time, and I think he could be back to his best pretty soon. But they do have 2 pretty tough matches now against Crystal Palace and was it Fulham? Oh, City? I can't remember. They have 2 pretty tough matches now, at least offensively speaking, against pretty good defensive sides now. So Salah, he's someone that you could sell, but I wouldn't be too confident in going long term without him, because from Game Week 8 onwards, they have pretty good fixtures, especially offensively. And I think Salah at that point, when they have Wirtz properly integrated into the team, potentially Isak properly integrated into the team, and they play Man United in Game Week 8, I think that could be a goal fest for Liverpool, and I think Salah, as always, can be someone that could get a hat-trick in that game. So yeah, I wouldn't write off Salah. I think he looked better in this game as well. He's looked better in general with a proper right-back behind him rather than Szoboszlai, who played right-back at the start of the season. He's been able to go in better positions, get more inside. You saw that in this game. He got the assist for the first goal from Gravenberch, who I also will compliment more later on in this video, or in this section of speaking about Liverpool against Everton. But anyways, Salah got the assist for the first goal. Pretty good pass, even better finish from Gravenberch. And then Salah also had 2 other good opportunities to score. Had one pretty early in the first half, shot it just over. It was a really well-placed shot, actually, but it was just a bit too high to go into the goal. That would have been a fantastic start for Salah once again, right after the game against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, where he looked really good. And then later, towards the end of the game, he also got a really nice pass where he had a good shooting chance, but he just shot it pretty weak, like a weak shot attempt at Pickford. But yeah, Salah's looking a lot better, I think, in terms of being an FPL asset. But this is also coincides with when a lot of people are selling him, which is kind of ironic, I guess. But yeah, I would have at least a plan to get him in for Game Week 8, at least, if I'm not going for him on a wildcard, because I think he could be really good. Isak could obviously also be really good, but he didn't start in this game as expected. Ekitike started up front, and he scored the second goal for Liverpool, once again showing that he is just top class. Assist from Gravenberch, who was amazing, got DEFCON points, got a goal, got an assist, got a lot of points in this game. And I think also, just speaking of City earlier with Rodrigo getting a lot of goals the past 2 seasons ago, often a lot of managers copy Pep Guardiola because he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest manager of all time. And I think maybe a lot of people are looking to do the same thing now with roaming midfielders that score, because we've seen a lot of this season. Not only Gravenberch in this game, we've seen it from Caicedo, we've seen it from Bruno Fernandes playing as a center midfielder now, scoring this game week as well. Reinders, of course, who keeps going forward in these central positions. Maybe that is the new meta this time around in terms of FPL players. We've seen a lot of good defensive midfielders so far, a lot of high scores. Anton Stach from Leeds is another one that I'm going to talk about more when it comes to the Leeds fixture. But this might be a new thing in FPL. We also have they could score a lot more goals than they usually do, or at least a couple more goals than they usually do, these center mids, defensive mid types. But also they are kind of underrated in terms of their DEFCON points potential. I think they haven't really been properly adjusted yet from last season, because I think midfielders getting DEFCONs is a pretty underrated thing. I said this earlier in the season, actually, when talking about Anton Stach for Leeds, that these midfielders compared to the defenders, they don't get minus points when they concede 2 goals or more. So for defenders that get a lot of DEFCON points, I have Agbadou, for example, in my own team, Wolves concede 2 goals at least pretty much every game. So he is like, even if he gets DEFCON points every game, he's still capped at like 3 points rather than 4 points. But for midfielders, you're going to get 2 DEFCON points and you're not going to lose any points from goals conceded. So that's another benefit from defensive midfielders overall. But yeah, Gravenberch, on the topic of defensive slash center midfielders who are good, he's just been fantastic this season. He is top class, world class. He finally is getting his due, probably due to be overrated pretty soon, because that's usually what happens when people have been underrated for a long time. They usually get a bit overrated. So I think that could happen with Gravenberch, but he is definitely top class. Like, he is one of the best midfielders in the world. And what's fantastic in this game was the difference between the teams. So yeah, that's pretty much Liverpool. Van Dijk once again got DEFCON points right at the end there. So he is still really good for defensive contributions. He is still a really good asset. Eventually, once Liverpool's fixtures are pretty good. But even now, like, they have 2 tougher fixtures now, and the next 2 fixtures, the next 2 matches for Liverpool are pretty tough in terms of like defenses that they face. But I think clean sheets and defensive contributions could be a good case for Van Dijk as well going forward. So he is a decent option. Kirkus and Konate also got DEFCONs. This was like the biggest DEFCON game so far this season. 4 DEFCON winners from Liverpool, 4 DEFCON winners from Everton, and just a lot of points all around in this game. But Everton, still, they weren't denied offensively. They are a really good offensive team, despite not getting that many chances in this game as expected against Liverpool. But they did create enough to get a really nice goal. Idrissa Gana Gueye scoring, another midfielder who scored, actually. So he's also in that same vein in terms of midfielders that can score. But Everton looked good again. I think Grealish had a good game, and Ndiaye is the one that I want to mention the most as a standout player. He got defensive contribution points, 12 defensive contributions in this game. He also got an assist, really nice assist for the Gana Gueye goal. And he's also on penalties, and Everton still haven't gotten a penalty so far this season. And I think they're going to get some because Grealish is really good at getting penalties. They are super offensive, super attacking team so far this season, and they have looked really good going forward. And I do really like a lot of the Everton assets. Dewsbury Hall is someone else that I do quite like from Everton. He was in good positions this game as well, had a shooting chance, had a chance to get an assist in this game as well. But he also got another yellow card, which means that he's on 4 yellow cards and he's 1 away from suspension. So yeah, there's been a pretty huge discussion between like which is the better midfield asset from Everton. And for me, it seems like Ndiaye is going to be the pick of the bunch. He has DEFCON potential. He's on penalties. He's in really good positions. He plays offensively. He's going to play offensively as well. Dewsbury Hall, there's a bit of a risk that he might play more defensively eventually once Dibbling is more integrated into the team and stuff. So yeah, I just think Ndiaye is the best standout player from Everton, despite Grealish just looking so good on the ball, looking so good in general. He also was really creative for the goal, was like the pre-assist, as we usually call it, the one passing to the guy and getting the assist. Really nice cross to Ndiaye, who put it down for Gana Gueye, who scored a really nice shot. But Liverpool, once again, managed to keep the win and got 2-1 in the end. Another 3 points for them and a lot of points from their FPL assets also. So anyone that started the season with Ekitike, congrats. Gakpo has been good so far this season, but he actually got subbed off this game earlier, which is the first time that has happened this season. So not too sure about his minutes either. We're just being on the bench. So not that many good Liverpool options to choose from, despite them just scoring every single game. They get goals every single game. You don't see that many players from Liverpool on wildcards currently. It's like Salah or nothing at this point. I think some of that will change once Isak gets properly integrated into the team. By all accounts, by everything that I hear from Arne Slot, it seems like Isak's going to be pretty nailed as the striker, going to play 70 minutes, maybe even more. Maybe he's going to play alongside Ekitike eventually this season. But I think Isak's going to be really good once he gets up to speed as well. He's also a lot cheaper than Salah, 4 million cheaper. So I think having a way to get these Liverpool players in for game week 8 onwards, either Isak or Salah, or maybe even both at that point, could be the way to go for Liverpool. So yeah, a lot of good assets there. Everton also have a lot of good assets. Defensively, still haven't been the best, but we're also waiting for Brentford to come back. He's back in training, but wasn't in the squad for this game. But Mykolenko was back starting, and he's also another reason why they looked more solid defensively, because now they finally have a proper left back, and that also allowed Garner to play in midfield, where Garner got DEFCON points with 18 defensive contributions. Amazing score from him, playing as more or less like a defensive type of midfielder. Underrated player, by the way, Garner. Maybe not an FPL, because I think Dewsbury Hall is just a better asset because he's more offensively minded for the same price. But Garner is someone that is also pretty good and has also scored so far this season as one of those central midfielders, defensive midfielders who's come along and scored goals from defensive positions, but just getting into the attack basically. So yeah, that was Everton against Liverpool against Everton, the Merseyside derby. Congrats to Liverpool for the win. Everton still look good. Next up, we have Man United against Chelsea, a really interesting game for a lot of reasons. Chelsea sees red is what I've had as the title here. The Red Devils, they did see, and they did lose this game. Kind of surprisingly, I did expect Chelsea to beat Man United because Man United have been in a bit of a shambles so far this season. But with Chelsea going down to 10 men after only 4 minutes with Sanchez getting sent off, that sort of just changed the game entirely. Not just because they had to do a goalkeeper change and put in Phil Jurgensen in for another player and we're down to 10 men, but also because Enzo Maresca just did a lot of weird changes, I think. Like subbed off Pedro Neto for some reason. I don't know why he did that. And then he was forced to take off Palmer a little bit after that because Palmer had some issues with his groin once again. So yeah, not looking good for Chelsea this game, but I don't think we can really tell much from this game with being down to 10 men that early, losing Palmer that early, like subbing off their best offensive players super early. Like it's going to be tough to get anything from Chelsea from this game, apart from the fact that once again they were amazing from set pieces. They had a goal disallowed from a set piece earlier from an offside. And they also had the goal with Chalobah scoring from a set piece as well. And Chalobah is someone that I haven't really seen that much in wildcard drafts, and I'm kind of befuddled because he's been the highest scoring defender so far. He's getting DEFCON points in a lot of games. He's scoring goals. He's been really good attacking wise, and Chelsea have just been so good at these set pieces. So I think Chalobah is someone that has been like completely underrated when it comes to wildcard drafts. I think he's someone that you should definitely consider because Chelsea long term have actually pretty good matches. The next couple matches aren't the best defensive wise. They have Brighton now, which is a team that usually scores, and they have Liverpool in the game week after that. But from game week 8 onwards, like Nottingham Forest away is still also like a pretty tough fixture. But from game week 9 onwards, at least, Chalobah is going to be a really good asset. So maybe that's the way to go. Maybe you have maybe you have like a Spurs defender like Romero, for example, for the next 3 game weeks, and then you switch from him to Chalobah. Like that could be a good tactic as well. Because I think Chalobah has just looked amazing so far. He's going to play every game as well. He is nailed, unlike Tosin Adarbayo, who was not starting in this game, but he came on pretty early in that change to have another defender in there to try to defend this game with being down to 10 men. But they weren't a man down for too long because Man United got a red card for Casemiro. 2 yellow cards. The first one kind of stupid. The second one also kind of stupid. But at the same time, one of the subs for Chelsea was Andre Santos, and he knew exactly what he was doing when he got Casemiro sent off. He was basically in front of Casemiro in a pretty good position offensively, and rather than going for the goal, he sort of did the NBA move where they sort of drift into the defender, try to getting a foul there, and try to get a yellow card. You could see like as he was falling, he was doing like the yellow card motion. Andre Santos, who is a bit of like a shithouse player. He is haven't really gotten the best impression of him, honestly, as like at least a player on the pitch who knows how he is off the pitch. Sometimes that's a bit of a different story, but he definitely got what he wanted from Casemiro, and Casemiro, again, just being a bit of a hothead, sort of got tricked into it and got a red card, which I guess was deserved, but it was also like completely constructed by Andre Santos, that situation. So yeah, Man United down to 10 men, but they also had scored 2 goals in the meantime. Fernandes showed that he is still just a really good asset. He just finds a way to get points any which way. Like he can get points from attacks, even though he plays like as more of a central midfielder. That's going to be another one of these instances with a central midfielder scoring goals, joining the attack. But he did that in this game. Really astute from Fernandes. He saw what was going to happen. He's just a really smart football player, and he saw that there was going to be a header into the center of the box, and he was there to tap in a pretty easy shot there because he knew what was going to happen. So yeah, Fernandes keeps getting points, gets penalties sometimes, he gets DEFCON points. Wasn't close to DEFCON points in this game, of course, because they were up by 1 man pretty early in the game and they were leading, so that's going to make it tougher to get DEFCON points in general. But yeah, he scored, looked good for Man United. Casemiro scored as well, another defensive mid who scored. That's like the theme of this game week, I guess, from like right after a set piece with the ball being headed back to Casemiro, and he scored before he was sent off, of course. 2-0 for Man United, but with 1 man down, or like not 1 man down, but like 10 against 10, it was more of an even game for Chelsea, but they just had subbed off like their best players offensively. Palmer had been subbed off with a groin issue, and Joao Pedro, bless him, tried his best to make things work, but he just had no support in this game. So lucky for me, who went against doing a transfer for Joao Pedro this game week, but I don't think like you can read too much into it. Like I said previously, this was just a game that was like very strange for a lot of different reasons, mostly down to the fact that there were red cards and Maresca just like kind of losing his head there at the moment and doing changes that I don't think he needed to do at that moment in time. Which was also, of course, even worse because Palmer had to be subbed off with a groin injury and they used all their substitution windows basically pretty early in this game. So yeah. Yeah, that's that game. Let's move on to the next game, which is going to be between Brighton and Spurs. And this is a game that was like really back and forth. Like the Man United Chelsea game was also kind of back and forth, but this was back and forth without any red cards or anything like that. 2 goals for Brighton, 2 goals for Spurs in total. 2-2. I think it was a fair result in the end because both teams had their chances. Brighton took the lead with Yankuba Minte, who once again looks really good. He's so quick and hit them on the counter. Went behind the defensive line and was like barely onside. It was really close, but he managed to get it past Vicario and score. Brighton also took the lead 2-0 with Ayari shooting from a distance and a pretty bad involvement from Vicario, who's been really good so far this season. We also saw this with the Sunderland goalkeeper Roofs, as I'll get to eventually. 2 goalkeepers that have been like among the best so far this season that just conceded like pretty simple shots. And that was the case for the 2-0 goal for Brighton. But Spurs found a way to claw back into the game. Kudus also found a way to get 2 assists from basically strange circumstances. The first assist, really nice play from Spurs. They played into the box. Kudus tries to shoot. I'm pretty certain it looks like he tried to shoot the ball, but the ball instead went as a perfect pass. A bit of a hard pass. It was meant as a pass. That was pretty bad in terms of adjusting power because it went just like bam straight into the feet of Richarlison, who was quick to react and scored. And just on the topic of Richarlison, he has been like sort of overlooked a bit so far this season. He started the season off with a bang in the first game week, scoring was it 2 goals in the first game? Then he had an assist against Man City in the second game. But then after that, he's been a bit in and out of the team, I guess, for Spurs. They struggled against Bournemouth in game week 3, and in game week 4, he came back from like a grueling schedule with Brazil, and after playing so many matches, and also like going into a Champions League game the week after, Mathys Tel got the chance up front in that game, and people just wrote off Richarlison as like an asset in total because they don't really expect him to get that many minutes. But with Solanke is still out pretty long term now, and also like Richarlison just showing that he is the best striker for Spurs. He is still a number 9. We remember those comments from Thomas Frank that Richarlison is his current number 9. That was even before Solanke got injured. I think he's going to play most matches going forward. Maybe the Champions League thing is a bit of an issue because Mathys Tel is not in the Champions League squad for Spurs. He can't play in the Champions League, so he gets the chance up front sometimes. But I think Richarlison is just a much better striker and showed it this time around as well with the first really nice goal and just being a good player overall. Richarlison, underrated player in total and also underrated in FPL this season. But yeah, he scored for Spurs. And then second half, another like kind of flunky assist from Kudus, but he does put a lot of balls into the box. He is really good at getting free from his man and putting the ball into the box. And sometimes he gets rewarded with assists. And he has been rewarded handedly with 4 assists so far this season. 2 of them, or 3 of them really, from Richarlison just being a really good striker in game week 1 and in game week 5. And this final one across that was like almost headed by someone from Spurs, can't remember, Palhinha I think it was, tried to header it, and then it went into Van Hecke, who scored an own goal instead. So yeah, assist there. He also almost got a fluky goal towards the end there. Kudus had a shot that went into a player, almost deflected into the goal, so he could have locked himself into 2 assists and 1 goal in this game. So yeah, a lot of points for Kudus. But as always, not the biggest fan of him, of course. And again, I have to just preface that with me being a West Ham fan, but I also just hated him as a player last season and was kind of happy to see him go even to Spurs for 55 million, which I think is a bit too much for him, honestly. A lot of people are saying that that's a steal, but anyways, let's not get into Kudus. I'm just going to keep hating on him, I guess. But yeah, 2-2 in this game. Brighton looked good in general. I think Mente has been like the standout player for 5.9. He's gone down in price. He's a really good asset. I think Georgina Rutter is still a decent player. He's going to play up front and going to be most likely on penalties for Brighton now. With Martin O'Reilly gone, and of course Milner doesn't play that much. He usually takes penalties for them when he's on the pitch, but he's not really on the pitch that much. And also Welbeck missing a penalty earlier in the season as well. So I think Rutter is going to be on penalties, and it's going to be a good asset. Mitoma as well, good. Not the best in this game. Wasn't the most attacking in this game, but Minte looked really nice. So he's a good option for Brighton. But yeah, I don't really know with Brighton. They have a lot of like decent, like pretty good assets, but they don't have the best matches. So I'm just staying away from Brighton for now. But I think there's going to be If it's Minte, if it's Ritter, if it's going to be Mitoma, there's going to be one of those guys who's going to stand out as like a really good option eventually for Brighton, as they usually do. I remember back a couple seasons back when they had, what was it, Solimarch, Mitoma, and McAllister, who were like the three players we had to choose from on a wildcard. And now I think there could be the same thing eventually once they get better fixtures with Minte, Ritter, and Mitoma, who are all decent assets. A lot of defcons in this game as well. Romero with 18 just shows again why I think he's the best defender from Spurs, especially without Price included in general. He's a threat from set pieces, which are usually taken by Xavi Simons, who didn't start this game, and Kudus. That's another reason why Kudus could be a good asset, by the way. But Simons didn't start this game, so Pedro Porro took some set pieces from there. He also had a really nice pass to Richarlison. Richarlison almost scored earlier in the game. But yeah, back to Romero. I think he's the best asset. 18 defensive contributions. He is just the best for that for Spurs. Gets defensive contributions. He's good in terms of attacking returns potentially. And also, Spurs have shown to be a pretty good defensive side. And also, I think for the next 3 game weeks, they have really good fixtures. So I think anyone going without Spurs assets in the wildcard, I think having a defender, whether that is Romero, if you want to go a bit cheaper with Van de Ven, or if you want to go a bit out there with Udogie, who was super attacking in this game and looked really good offensively, despite the numbers not really showing that. He was in really good positions to get either goals or assists, and he's shown that in the past. And also in preseason, he looked really good under Thomas Frank. That's why a lot of people brought him in, had him in their team before he got injured at the start of the season. Or before the start of the season. So Udogie, who's now 4.4, I think he's also a pretty good asset there from Spurs. Pedro Porro, if you have him, of course, keep him for the next few games that are really easy. But I don't think he's the best value, especially with Xavi Simons most likely going to start. Kind of like Eze, we saw both Eze and Simons being injured, or Xavi, I should say, being not injured, being starting on the bench for this game. I don't think that's going to be the case going forward because I think those two are just too important for their teams. So I think Xavi Simons is going to start, and I think Pedro Porro is not going to be on set pieces because of that. And I think he's not going to be the best value for that reason. But if you have him already, of course, keep him for the next 3 games. They have like the 3 easiest matches almost when it comes to clean sheets. The next 3, was it Leeds, Aston Villa, and Wolves? Not in that order, but yeah, the 3 of the worst offensive teams in the league. So I think Spurs defenders are kind of underrated as well on the wildcard. You should be having them in your squad. Like if you don't want to spend too much money long term, Udogie, if you have a nice exit plan in game week 8, for example, if you can buy an Arsenal defender rather than Pedro Porro, you can also do that. Yeah, they just have a lot of good defensive assets. Offensively, I think Richarlison is actually the best asset. I think he's going to be more nailed than people think. He is the starting number 9, as was told to us by Thomas Frank, and he's shown to be a really good striker this season. I think he's someone that could take that place long term anyway, even when Solanke comes back. Richarlison has been fantastic and is a striker that sort of suits Thomas Frank and his system, and yeah, he clearly thinks so himself. That was that game. Let's move on to a couple more games. West Ham against Palace, first and foremost. This is, an interesting game. I think the expected goal numbers, maybe again, as a West Ham fan, maybe I'm a bit biased here. I don't think it tells the full story of the game. But Palace had 2 really good chances. Like the biggest story of the game and the biggest story of any West Ham game so far this season has just been set pieces. Like West Ham are so susceptible to conceding from set pieces. We saw Mateta score a goal in this game from a set piece, easy header from him. And also Lacroix was really close to scoring a header as well. West Ham just can't defend in their own box, it seems. Even the winning goal from Mitchell was also another one of these instances where they just tried to clear it. The ball went up in the air. Both Mavropanos and Walker Peters fell down. And Mitchell scored a really nice volley, but from a pretty good position. So yeah, West Ham definitely a team to target when it comes to conceding goals. West Ham are just leaky defensively. 3 at the back, 4 at the back. Doesn't really matter. They concede a lot of chances. They concede a lot of goals. And especially from set pieces. So yeah, I think that's always something you can count on against West Ham. But that could change pretty soon because West Ham are apparently looking at replacing Graham Potter with potentially Nuno Espirito Santo. So that could be completely changing how we look at West Ham in upcoming game weeks. And I think Mavropanos, who got DEFCON points this time around as well, he could be a good option. Diouf, who's looked amazing so far, and just especially offensively, got another assist in this game from a corner, actually, taking a corner from the right with his in-swinging left foot, met by Bowen, who scored a really nice goal there. It was especially nice for me as not only a West Ham fan, but someone that had started Diouf over Richards in this game, and also had Bowen in my fantasy team, playing against Palace, where a lot of people had Munoz, Lacroix, and these types of players. That goal was just the perfect thing for me this game week myself. Yeah, Juve, like I mentioned, super attacking, had several other really close chances to get assists, had 2 really nice passes towards Bowen, but Palace are really good at defending, and they just got just in between them to stop the ball going to Bowen in really good scoring positions. So I think Juve and Bowen are actually pretty good assets still. I have them both in my team, and I'm not really looking to sell them now because they do look pretty good, and they did score in this game also for West Ham. So yeah. But again, West Ham defensively from corners, awful. They even changed their goalkeeper now back to Areola again from Hermansen, the new signing, already being benched. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess at West Ham with Graham Potter, and he's going to get sacked pretty soon, I think, because the next 2 matches are really tough for West Ham. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a struggle now against Everton away and then Arsenal also away after that. 2 really tough fixtures, and then I think it's going to be done before the international break. Nuno Espirito Santo is probably going to come in for West Ham, I assume, and that will change the outlook for West Ham also in terms of fixtures. So for Game Week 8 onwards, if you're on a Game Week 8 wildcard, I think West Ham players are really interesting. And also, I think for a Game Week 6 wildcard, you could go with Juve just because of his cheap price, 4.4. He's gotten 3 assists so far. Could be gaining more points in terms of clean sheets and DEFCON points. Also with Espirito Santo coming back, we saw Nico Williams playing left back and getting a lot of defense contribution points last season. So under Nuno Espirito Santo. So I think he is actually a pretty good option. And Bowen is also like a decent option if you want another striker, if you're not completely sold on Jokers, for example. But again, sort of should wait for Game Week 8 onwards because that's when West Ham's fixtures get really good. Palace, their fixtures are turning pretty bad now, so I think this is the moment to sell most of your Palace assets, but they are still good. They are really good defensively. They don't concede that many chances. They do create a lot offensively as well. Wharton was back in this game and made a huge difference, as I've written there in the main takeaway. He put in the corners in the box that were really valuable for Palace, especially in this game against West Ham. And he was just good all around because he is a fantastic player, Adam Wharton. So yeah, he really helped. Ismail Assar is going to be back soon as well. So I think Palace are still like a decent team. They have tough matches, but they also have really good players, and they are going to be a really good team this season. I think they're going to finish in the top 10. So yeah, they have good assets, but I think now will be the time, especially Munoz, who has been a bit disappointing these last 2 game weeks. I think it might be time to move him on and Mateta on as well, because there are better options currently. But Richards is someone that is cheap and nice, someone that you can stash on your bench for a cheap price and bring him back into the fold when he gets good matches. He also got defensive contributions points this game, 17 defensive contributions, which is amazing, a really good sign for him. And his FCON potential. That's why I picked him myself in the Game Week 1 squad, because he has that really high potential, and he's also only 4.5 at this moment in time. So he's still really cheap compared to someone like Senesi, for example, that has gone up in price because they've had decent fixtures and they've had clean sheets. But Palace, a bit unlucky not to have more clean sheets. Could have had a clean sheet against West Ham, could have had a clean sheet against Forest. But yeah, they've conceded some goals from very low expected goals against really. Richards also, I think he has the highest bonus point system points compared to someone that hasn't gotten a single bonus point yet. So he is someone that is also nice to have for the future, I think, in FPL. Guehi also got DEFCON points here. It's also been good in terms of attacking returns so far. He's also a really good asset, but I think Richards is my preferred candidate because he's more secure when it comes to DEFCON points and also in terms of goals. But long term, Guehi is the more secure starter, but I think both of them are pretty secure starters because they've been pretty good so far this season. Fulham against Brentford. Again, this is another game that could have been, or I think actually West Ham Palace actually, there were a lot of goals in this game for both teams, honestly. Like I said, with just to finish up with the West Ham point as well. Like I said with Diouf, he had 2 passes that were almost went to Bowen in good scoring positions, and if that happens, West Ham's XG goes up to closer to the levels of Crystal Palace in that game. So I think that game deserved a lot of goals. I don't think the Fulham Brentford game really should have been that many goals. Also should be counted though the fact that Fulham had a goal disallowed really late in the game. Rodrigo Muniz, who's been starting up front for Fulham, had a really nice shot, pretty bad save attempt from Keller, and it went into the goal, but it was called off because Muniz sort of used his elbow to bring down a Brentford defender previously. So once again, the same thing that happened against Chelsea. Goal disallowed for an offensive infraction from an attacker from Fulham, basically, from Muniz, who does this from time to time. But yeah, Fulham ended up winning 3-1 in the end, despite Brentford taking the lead. Josh King in the midfield for Fulham, just an awful pass straight to Damsgaard, who scored. He's been amazing for Brentford so far this season. Also last season he was fantastic, but a really cheap goal from a really bad pass from Josh King, who also tried to dive for a penalty later on in the game. He did the classic like falling down and then just like ramming his foot into the legs of the Brentford defender, but the referee saw it for what it was worth and he gave him a yellow card instead. So not the best game again for King. Got subbed off after like 68-ish minutes now, so his value is going lower and lower by each game now because he had made a big mistake, also tried to dive for a penalty and that didn't work. So yeah, not the best times for Josh King, but it were good times for Fulham. They did manage to get the win in the end despite Brentford taking the lead. Couple goals. Harry Wilson scored, another like preseason favorite who's been a bit in and out of the team, especially now with Kevin coming in. He didn't actually start this game, which was a bit of a downside for me, a letdown. I had him in my free hit suggestion because I thought he was going to start, but he's not ready to start, I guess, yet for Fulham, but he's going to be fantastic for Fulham, who have been really good defensively so far this season. Joachim Andersen, another one of these like DEFCON monsters at 4.5, price at 4.5, 15 defensive contributions, easy route to defensive contribution points once again. And I think, honestly, if it wasn't for that mistake from King, I think Fulham would have kept the clean sheet in this game because Brentford just haven't looked that good offensively. Brentford also just really struggling to pick any offensive players. Kevin Schade is going to be playing most games, I think, but he's also like pretty highly priced. I don't know why he was like 7.0. I think that's like too high of a price for him. Damsgaard is like a decent candidate as well. I'm not quite sure about his price. I think it's 6.0 if I'm not mistaken. Dongo is also 6.0. He is another player that could be good, but he also is not starting currently. 2 games in a row he's been on the bench. Not the best for his future outlook. Also, Igor Thiago has been like a pretty popular, like cheap-ish attacking player, but he's also been subbed off and hasn't really played that many minutes so far. So yeah, Brentford defensively, they're struggling, conceding a lot of goals. They have typically good defense contribution type of players, but even in this game, they didn't get a single player with defense contribution points. And Collins is already 5.0, a bit more expensive than the other like 4.5 beasts that we have for a DEFCON perspective, basically. So yeah, Brentford, I don't think there's that many good assets. Fulham, apart from Anderson, I don't think there's that many good assets from them either. You could go with Rodrigo Muniz, but I think there's always going to be that fear that Raul Jimenez is going to take over as the starting striker again. Those two guys are like pretty evenly matched when it comes to their level, and I wouldn't be too like confident in Muniz keeping his starting spot, despite having a really well-taken goal that was disallowed in this game. I think Jimenez is always going to take minutes from him off the bench at the very least, and he might also take starting positions away from Muniz as well. So Fulham, I think, is mostly down to Anderson currently. They also have tough fixtures now coming up. So Fulham and Crystal Palace, despite having really good DEFCON defenders, you don't need to have them on the wall card. But I think both Richards and Anderson are really good assets in general this season. They are going to be underpriced because they are really good at DEFCON. They have some attacking potential as well. And playing for 2 really solid defensive teams. So yeah, I think Anderson is currently like the main guy from Fulham. I guess the DEFCON gets some attacking returns per season as well. But offensively, I don't really trust any of the Fulham players until Kevin comes in and properly starts every game. I think he's going to be a good asset at that point for 6.0. So yeah, that's Fulham Brentford, the West London derby. Let's move on to the next few games. We have Burnley and Nottingham Forest, and like I said previously, the games are going to be less and less interesting, so it's going to be less and less time spent on them because I've already used 47 minutes talking about the other games so far at this game week, basically game week 5. Burnley and Nottingham Forest, I think this was actually a more interesting game. Again, the expected goal numbers aren't the best, but I think this was actually quite a lot of chances in this game, quite a lot of good shots that weren't necessarily good expected goal chances, but they were really good. Either goals in the Nico Williams, that's his name, I should learn that by now. He scored, rewarding anyone that has kept him and started him this game week. He scored a really nice shot for Nottingham Forest. The Burnley goal was a bit of a mess, like I've written there. The ball, like pretty luckily went into the legs of who scored actually? Was it Anthony or was it? I can't remember who scored actually for Burnley, which is bad for me. But anyways, the goal from Burnley, it was really an own goal from Zinchenko because yeah, he really should have cleared that ball easily. He made a bit of a mess of that, and yeah, should have easily saved that from going into the goal for Burnley. But yeah, 2 early goals in this game, and that was all she wrote really for goals. But there were a lot of chances later on in the game. Chauna had a really nice free kick that hit off the crossbar and out. Nottingham Forest had several other good shots. Nico Williams could have actually been a 2-goal scorer. He had a really nice shot saved by Dubravka, who was fantastic for Burnley in this game. He did concede, so he didn't get points in that way, but he had 7 saves, managed to get 4 points in total as a goalkeeper for this game. So anyone that started him over Sanchez, congratulations. Anyone that bench boosted with Dubravka, you got saved a little bit with him there. 4 points from him, which is nice, despite conceding at least. He still got 4 points from this game. Estev, another really popular defensive candidate, especially on the bench boost for Burnley, also got 4 points because he got defensive contributions and didn't concede more than 1 goal in this game either. So yeah, Dubravka was the main reason for Burnley keeping conceding just the 1 goal. But that was a tough shot from Nico Williams that hit a defender and got deflected into the goal. So tough for Dubravka to save that. Other than that, I think this is like also where Ange Postecoglou finally made his proper mark. He had several changes to the team for this game. He played Douglas Luiz in midfield, and he took away corners from Anderson, which we did expect Elliot Anderson to lose corners to Douglas Luiz, but he did not take away defensive contributions. Douglas Luiz got only 3 defensive contributions, I think, and Anderson got 15. So maybe Douglas Luiz in the starting lineup will be a boost for Anderson when it comes to DEFCON potential, but I think it's going to be a detriment to overall points potential because his assist is going to go down as well. So I don't think he's going to be that explosive of an asset for 5.5 Anderson. So yeah, not too fussed about him. I don't really like the look of Nottingham Forest. They have tough fixtures now. They're finished, or from Game Week 6, after Game Week 6, they have Sunderland now next game week, which is going to be good for the defensive assets potentially. But past that, Game Week 7 onwards, they're going to have really tough fixtures on top of having just a new team, completely new team. They play in Europe. There's just too much uncertainty with Nottingham Forest assets. So keep them for 1 more game week and then sell them after that. Especially Chris Wood, who keeps playing or keeps getting subbed off. Got subbed off after 75 minutes this time around, which was expected. Game week 4, he was subbed off earlier because of the international break. But now he showed again that he's someone that is not going to play 90 minutes. He's not going to be on penalties the whole game like he usually has been doing. And he didn't even score in this game despite Forest having a lot of chances in total. So yeah, Chris Wood is someone that I could potentially sell before Game Week 6, but I think with Forest assets, I would just keep them for 1 more game week and then sell them on. Murillo is someone that didn't even play in this game either. He was still out with an injury, wasn't even on the bench. So they played Morato in the centre back next to Milenkovic. We also see Milenkovic be just higher up. The high line of Ange Postecoglou is coming slowly but surely. The last 3 games from Nottingham Forest, Milenkovic has been a lot higher up the pitch than he has been previously. I don't think that bodes well for him as an asset, both in FPL and also in terms of his strengths. 4 times the charm, I guess, as a defender for Milenkovic there. So yeah, I think it's also going to be like a bit of a downside asset. But next game against Sunderland, that's a team that hasn't produced that many goals going forward, hasn't produced that many chances. That could be good for defensive players, but Nottingham Forest assets in general, I think you could just sell. Burnley assets, they have decent, cheap assets in defense, but they do concede a lot of chances, a lot of goals. I don't think they're best defensively. I think actually offensively there are more assets there. Anthony for 5.5 in midfield. Jaden Anthony, he's a pretty good player. Also up front, Lyle Foster is starting every game, has played close to 90 minutes every game as well, and he's only 5.0, and they do create some chances Burnley. They will have to create a lot of chances because they concede a lot of chances, they concede a lot of goals, and that means that they have to push forward and score goals as well. So I think Lyle Foster as well is someone that's going to be really good for 5.0. I think it's going to be a nice cheap asset. If you need to save money for Salah, for example, he could be a good option in attack there for Burnley. But yeah, that's it for that game. Let's move on to Wolves Leeds, a game that was super high scoring but shouldn't have been really for the chances that Leeds had. At least 3 goals from 0.48 xg is kind of crazy, but it is also kind of explanatory by what happened in the game. One of them was the free kick goal from Anton Stach, who is someone that is really popular on a wildcard for the wildcard in Game Week 6. But I think he's been sort of like, I don't think he has the best potential going forward, honestly. In terms of the DEFCON numbers, he's had 2 really high DEFCON games. This game where he got 15 defensive contributions because Leeds just tried to defend their lead in the second half. And also in the first game week when he also got a goal return, he got an assist from winning a penalty. A deflected shot that went into the arm of Tarkovsky and was like a pretty harsh penalty, I think. Starch has gotten that point or that assist and the goal from a free kick, but yeah, we're not going to see that many free kick goals this season in general. Was also pretty poor from Wolves goalkeeper Jose Sa. I think Jose Sa in general just has not been the best goalkeeper the last few seasons, and he was at fault for especially the first goal. I think he could have done better for the free kick, but I think, as always with the free kick goals, you just have to give the plaudits to the guy who scored it rather than looking at it too badly from a goalkeeper perspective. But Jose Sa, especially for the first goal, was just completely off his line, wasn't properly prepared for the header from Calvert-Lewin. Really nice header from Calvert-Lewin, and that was a goal. Wolves also scored another really bad save attempt, the third goal for Leeds. Not the best shot from Leeds there, from Okafor, who scored the goal. But again, bad work from Jose Sa, who conceded a goal he shouldn't have conceded, really, as the goalkeeper there for Wolves. But Wolves actually took the lead in this game. They also had the most chances in terms of the expected goal numbers in this game. The goal came from Krejci, who has been listed as a defender for 4.5 because he has played centre-back in the past. But it seems like he's going to be more centre-mid maybe. Who knows? I think still Andre and Joao Gomez will be the preferred pair there for Wolves. So maybe Krejci will be played as a centre-back in the end. And he might have an advantage in terms of scoring goals as a midfielder. Once again, another defensive/central midfielder asset who scored a goal in this game week. Really nice goal actually from Wolves. Really nice play, passed into the box for Krejci, had drifted forward and scored. He has been a really good goal scorer even from a centre back position. He is a really nice attacking threat in general. But I've written Krejci out of position advantage ? There, because yes, he did play midfielder and scored a goal from that position. But in terms of DEFCON points, it's actually a bit of a detriment to him because you get less defensive contributions as a midfielder, of course, apart from the ball recovery stats, which is the main reason why midfielders get defensive contribution points. But that's not going to count for Krejci. He is still listed as a defender. All the ball recoveries he'll make as a midfielder will not count towards his DEFCON numbers. So in terms of DEFCON, I think he's actually going to be hampered by playing in midfield, but he's also going to have more of a goal threat in general. But if he's going to play as a centre-back, that's going to make some changes to the lineup for Wolves as well. That will be interesting to see who drops out of the Wolves centre-backs there. But yeah, if he plays as a centre-back, he's going to get better in terms of defensive contribution numbers, and he still is a really good goal threat from set pieces as well. So I think he's a pretty good asset from Wolves. It seems like he's going to play either in midfield or in defense. So if you're looking for a Wolves defender for some reason or another, because they have looked really bad so far, maybe they'll get better eventually, but Krejci is the way to go, I think, in that position. But yeah, they didn't really concede that many expected goals this game, as you can see, 0.48 for Leeds. And again, just bad from Jose Sa. He's going to see his expected goals prevented numbers take a huge dip from this game because he conceded 3 goals from 0.48 XG, which is terrible from a goalkeeper. But yeah, when it comes to the centre-backs, they played their 3 main centre-back, proper centre-back options in their system in Totti Gomez, Agbadou, and what's his name? Same name as the Arsenal centre-back. Blanking on the name now. Of course, Mosquera is the name. Yerson Mosquera, in this case, not Christian, who plays for Arsenal, who looks really good as well. But yeah, Mosquera is the final centre-back there. Doherty has played as the right centre-back usually. He was dropped out for this game. Krejci could play as a centre-back as well, so there are a lot of centre-back options for Wolves. I almost said good there, which is not the case at all. So I'm not sure who's going to drop out. Totti Gomez has played a lot in the past. I think he's pretty nailed. A lot of people said that Agbadou is going to be susceptible to be not starting for Wolves going forward. That could be the case. He was really good last season, has had an awful start to this season, including the goal for Okafor, the third goal for Leeds. Where he just passed it straight to a Leeds player, really bad for Agbadou, who's just been really shaky so far this season. But Agbadou was the only centre-back that played the whole game this time around, because both Totti Gomez and Mosquera got subbed off after with 15 minutes left of the game to push on for Wolves to get more goals, and Krejci was actually put in defense, which actually helped him get more DEFCON points as well, or defensive contributions in this game. So yeah, I'm not sure if Agbadou is going to be the one to drop out. I would think it would be Mosquera if it is Krejci coming back in. It could be both Krejci and Doherty as well. So yeah, I think the general consensus for Wolves is just stay away from them in general. But it could be better. Second half, of course, it's down to the fact that Leeds are already leading and trying to defend the lead rather than trying to go for another goal. That's why they didn't get that many expected goals against them in the second half, but also because John Larsson came on at the half and helped Wolves be better in general as a team. I think Wolves with Sean Larsson in the team are going to be better both offensively and defensively. I think it's been a huge miss for Wolves this season. He was the reason why they won in the League Cup against West Ham previously with 2 goals there. Son Larsen, he was a good asset in general. Also someone you should pay attention to, especially if Wolves look better now in the next game with him back as the starter, hopefully. But I think they could help them defensively as well. But yeah, a lot of talk about Wolves, who are the worst defensive team so far, the worst team in general this season, I think. Yeah, just an awful start to the season. Talked a lot about them. I don't think there's any like assets you should look to get from Wolves, but they have some. If they get it together, if they manage to turn the season around once again, like last season and in previous seasons as well, they usually start the season really slowly and then they get better eventually. So in the long term, I think Krejci could be good, and I think also Son Larsen could be good up front for a pretty cheap price. As my lights go up. I think lighting's still fine. I don't really mind it. I'll keep doing this in the dark anyways to end this video. But yeah, too much talk about Wolves. I did mention Stach. I don't think he's going to be the best in terms of like defensive contributions. He's been like really high in Game Week 1 and Game Week 5, and really low, like not the best in terms of defensive contributions. Was pretty far away from DEFCON points in Game Weeks 2, 3, and 4. And also, like, he is averaging 1 goal per season, pretty much 1 or 2 goals per season. The last few seasons, I don't think he's going to score that many goals. Maybe it's a bit of a difference now in the Premier League, like I mentioned, with more centre mids going forward and getting goals, but that's not how he's gotten his points so far. It's a free kick, and it's like a freak penalty assist as well. So yeah, I'm not sure if he's the best option for 5.0, but I get the allure. But yeah, DEFCON points, he hasn't really been like a safe option for that. Hasn't really been a safe option for getting goals and assists in future or past seasons. So I think he's a bit overrated as an asset, and I think it's just down to him getting a lot of points so far this season, which is why I'm like confused. Like, Chalobah is not really getting picked despite getting a lot of points, playing for a really good team and just being nailed, being a good attacking threat, and Anton Stach playing for a really bad team, like presumably bad team in Leeds, even though they are pretty defensively solid. But yeah, someone that has gotten points from like pretty lucky situations, a free kick and like a freak penalty assist. I don't think it's the best option. But yeah, Calvert-Lewin started, got a goal and an assist actually. He got the pass from Aguado, like the misplaced pass, and got the assist for the Okafor goal. Also had a nice header, but again, that was bad from Jose Sa. I don't think Leeds are going to score that many goals, but he's at least someone that starts for 5.5, so he's also a decent option for Leeds for a really cheap price. But yeah, I do prefer someone like Lyle Foster, like I mentioned, from Burnley. Let's move on to the next 2 fixtures, the final 2 fixtures, and the fixtures that were the least interesting, really, in terms of like the games at least. Starting with Bournemouth against Newcastle, 0-0, and just the lowest XG number I've seen almost ever. 0.46 XG for Bournemouth, 0.14 for Newcastle. Neither team really that close to scoring a goal. Bournemouth were actually close to scoring a goal because they had a goal disallowed for an offside for Brooks. He was slightly offside from the pass, like a misplaced shot, I think, maybe from Evan Nilsson. Could have been an Evan Nilsson assist and a Brooks goal, but it was offside like ever so slightly. So a bit unlucky there in that regard, Bournemouth. But Newcastle, once again, like they did in game week 3, set up super defensively with this like 3 at the back formation with like wing backs, Livramento on one wing back, Hall at the other wing back, without at least I can't remember exactly the starting lineup, but yeah, without Elanga, who's just been like a non-starter as an asset now, literally. But yeah, Newcastle, again, just trying to defend and get a point here away to Bournemouth. We can see that from Newcastle. And another clean sheet for that matter. 4 clean sheets out of 5 games for Newcastle. The only game that they haven't gotten a clean sheet was against Liverpool, where Liverpool where they were down to 10 men because of the red card to Gordon. So yeah, offensively, they've been pretty trash so far, Newcastle. Defensively, they've been amazing. But I think once Gordon comes back, I think they're going to be more offensively minded. Maybe not in the next game against Arsenal. I think they're going to defend for their lives and try to get a 0-0 or maybe a cheeky 1-0 or 2-0 win. That has worked for them in the past against Arsenal. Could happen again. But defensive assets, they are actually pretty good. We have both Dan Burn and Livramento, who are now both up to 5.1, I think. Malik Thiaw has played as a centre back in that 3 at the back formation, but I don't think he's going to be there long term. But Shar is now obviously injured, so that could be also the case why they played so defensively now, just to secure the point, really. And they got the point in the end with 0-0 there. But yeah, Dan Burn is a good asset. I think he's probably my favorite asset out of him and Livramento, just because of the defensive contribution potential. He's also super nailed. He's just played every single game for Newcastle the last, like, under Eddie Howe, he's played every single game for them. He is completely nailed. Pretty cheap price, all things considered, and pretty good for DEFCON points. And he can score as well. He's super tall, as we all know. He can score goals offensively, so I think he's like a decent asset to have as well. But for now, the fixtures are still pretty bad. So I wouldn't really go for a Newcastle defender, even though they have been keeping a lot of clean sheets. But yeah, tough fixtures is going to make it tough for Newcastle in general. But yeah, I think Gordon is going to be a really good asset eventually this season. He's going to be on penalties. He's going to be their main attacking threat. We saw that against Barcelona in the Champions League, where they looked really good offensively. So yeah, Newcastle, hard team to gauge. Bournemouth, have to just give credits to the two of the best FPL assets currently in the game, two nailed on picks for anyone wildcarding. Anton Semenyo, DEFCON points. He had no chances to score. He had one decent chance to score actually, where I think it was Tonali who got in the way of the shot for Semenyo. But apart from that, didn't really have any chances to score goals and get points. But he still managed to get DEFCON points. He still got a clean sheet as a midfielder, listed as a midfielder. So 5 points in total for Semenyo in a game where we didn't really expect him to get much if he wasn't able to score with Newcastle playing so defensively. So he keeps getting points. Senesi, clean sheet against Newcastle. DEFCON points again. He's a fantastic asset also. Both these guys are really good. Cloyford came on again. He's been coming on every single game so far this season, or pretty much since he got back from injury. But it doesn't seem like he's a starter. It seems like Tavernier and Brooks are preferred, and of course Semenyo and Van Nilsson. So I'm not sure about Cloyford, but he took a free kick. That was like one of the better chances that Bournemouth had in this game. That was saved from Nick Pope, who's also looked really good. He's also someone that you could consider on a wildcard, but they also brought in Ramsdale before the start of the season. So you would think Nick Pope is on a bit of a short leash in terms of being the starting goalkeeper, but he's been really good so far for Newcastle. So he is someone that you could go for. I think it's a bit too risky for my case. For my taste, I think Burn would be a better option, but goalkeepers is someone that you want more long-term as well. So yeah, that's why I'm a bit iffy since they have Ramsdale. If they didn't have Ramsdale as the backup goalkeeper, they still had Dubravka as the backup goalkeeper, who's a really good goalkeeper for what it's worth. I think Pope would have been a fantastic choice. But with Ramsdale just lurking there, ready to take over the number one spot in goal, I'm not too sure I would go there with Pope. But yeah, Newcastle just defending their way to another point. Really interesting to see that. They have defended really well so far this season, but we'll see once they get tougher fixtures and also try to play more attacking football, how they will fare in terms of clean sheet potential in general. Sunderland against Aston Villa, two teams that didn't keep a clean sheet despite pretty low amounts of chances in this game. Interesting game as well here with another red card for what's his name again? Reinildo. There's so many names to think of. Reinildo got a really stupid red card, but it was also basically caused by Medicash, who just went into him like really needlessly. Should have really gotten a yellow card from what he did. Like just rammed into to Reinildo, and Reinildo just reacted really badly. Like used his feet to like kick out at Cash and caught him with his studs, and it was a clear red card, of course, but it was like completely like shithoused by Matty Cash, like pretty dirty play from him. He sort of took a page out of Andre Santos's book and did the same thing here in this game and got a red card for Sunderland. And at that point, people thought like, oh, Sunderland went down to 10 men. Now Aston Villa and Rodgers and Watkins, the cursed FPL assets, now they have to score. But I was thinking kind of the opposite. I was thinking Sunderland down to 10 men, they're just going to completely defend this whole game, try to defend a 0-0 type of result, maybe eke out a goal. And that's what they tried to do and did quite successfully. Aston Villa were not that close to scoring much of the game, really. They had one really big chance, which would have been an assist for Rodgers. He passed it into the box to Gassant, who's not really looked that good either for Aston Villa, who shot it just straight at the goalkeeper roofs for Sunderland. But they did break the deadlock with Matty Cash actually scoring. He got a lot of points this game week for anyone that had him for a really cheap price. Had a shot from really far out, pretty much straight at Roofs, but then Roofs didn't manage to save it. He's been so good so far this season, but kind of like Vicario, had a major mistake this game week and showed why he's maybe not like the best goalkeeper either. Yeah, Sunderland, they have some really good defensive assets. Both Michele and Alderete, who played at centre-backs this game, got a lot of defensive contribution numbers. But the one downside here for Sunderland is the fact that Dan Ballard, who was like the hero in Game Week 1, scoring against West Ham, getting a clean sheet, getting defensive contribution points in that game. He's 4.5, so it's a bit more expensive. He's going to come back now. He was back as a substitute in this game, coming on after the red card. He's going to be back in the starting lineup pretty soon, and that could he can get into the starting lineup in two different ways. Either he can play alongside Michele and maybe put Alderete out of the team, or he could push Michele out to right back, which would mean Michele is less of a defensive contribution points getter, which could also damage him as an FPL asset. So Mukiele and Alderete, there are good reasons to have either of them as an asset on like as a cheap 4.0 defender, but I think I'm just like a little bit worried about Alderete's starting position and Mukiele's position and defcon potential as a right back potentially. Would be more attacking threat if he's a right back, but yeah, I just have a couple of question marks when it comes to Sunderland in that regard with their centre backs. So that's why I'm like a little bit more off put by them compared to someone like Goodmanson from Leeds, who I really like, or Rodon from Leeds. So yeah, Xhaka again didn't get defcon points in this game, but had the assist for Isidore, who scored once again. He's been fantastic so far, Isidore, and been a really good striker, but I don't really know about his long-term potential there either. They have other options there. Mayenda can play as a striker. Bobby has been brought in to be a striker now that Mark Guiu has been recalled on loan back to Chelsea. So I'm not sure about the strikers for Sunderland either, but Isidore has been so good so far. Really well taking goal. He sort of did the same as Bruno Fernandes. He saw what was going to happen. He saw that there was going to be a header from Xhaka into the box, and he was there to pounce and get a 1-1 draw for Sunderland. So another terrible result for Aston Villa. They've been just dreadful this season, 0.71 XG. It is probably time to sell their assets, but like me, I have Rodgers. I have other more important issues to deal with, I think, and I still want to wait and see who's the best midfielders until like Game Week 8. I think that's a better time to choose a new midfielder. But if you do have money in the bank, especially extra, upgrading Rodgers, I think, to someone like Fernandes or Mbeumo, for example, could be a good way to go. Or like one of the City midfielders, maybe Foden if you trust him and his minutes going forward, or Doku if you trust him and his minutes going forward. That's also a different thing you can do with Rodgers. But in terms of downgrading, I think like the cheaper assets in midfield, I think Paquetá is going to be a really nice option for Game Week 8. But other than that, I'm not sure. Dewsbury Hall, like you could go with NGI as well if you have the money and if you don't have any other places to put that money. So there are good options for Rodgers, but for me, probably still going to keep him for the next 2 games. I might bench him against Fulham because that's a tough game, I think, in terms of scoring goals, because Fulham are good defensively. But then Burnley in the fixture after that at home, maybe that will be finally when Rodgers gets points when nobody has him still. But yeah, selling him seems like a no-brainer, especially on a wildcard. Get rid of Rodgers, get rid of Watkins. That's another reason to wildcard as well, as I noticed that I talked about in the video from yesterday. A big reason to wildcard is if you have double up with Rodgers and Watkins, because Aston Villa just looked dreadful this season in general. So yeah, Sunderland again looking good defensively, but we don't really know if it's because they're facing bad teams every single game or if they're actually really good defensively. I think it's a bit of both actually. I think they're not going to be like that good defensively, but they're going to be pretty solid, a pretty tough team to break down in general, especially at the Stadium of Light. So yeah, let that be the closing thoughts of this whole game week. So yeah, talk for an hour and 10 minutes just about. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Had a lot of things to say for these games. I usually struggle to stop talking, which is the case especially towards the end of the videos. Like now, I'm just blabbering on and on and on. So if you've gone through the whole video or listened to the whole video, hopefully you haven't had to look at my face the whole time. You've just been able to listen to my soothing voice, if you like that. Anyways, I'm just blabbering on, like I said. Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching. See you next time. I'm going to have a weekly wildcard draft video tomorrow with my ideal wildcard for Game Week 6. So yeah, see you for that tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.